It seems like the American government just doesn't like crypto. First, let's take a look at Bitcoin right here. You can see this is right around the time right here around June 5th, announcement of Binance being sued by the SEC, sending the price of Bitcoin tumbling down to around 25, 300, 400. It bottomed out for a couple days, about a day and a half. The crypto market said, no. We know how this works. We're going right back to the moon right here, right back to where it started before this news was announced. And then after Coinbase got sued by the SEC, that news broke, sent it tumbling back down again. And it's since been about bottomed out right here, right around this 26, 400, 500 range. So we're only about $800 down from this point right here all the way to where we are right now, which is pretty incredible considering the fact that not only Binance, but Coinbase, the two biggest crypto exchanges in the world, have now been sued by the SEC, which has all kinds of implications. Whether or not it's valid, we'll find out, but it definitely doesn't bode well news-wise as a catalyst for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. You can see Ethereum right here following about the same thing. It's gone down, bottomed out, came back up, but that's not all the news, obviously. Binance halted trading for different pairs. You can see all of them down here. There is a ton of them. A lot of them have to do with USDT, but there is a ton of different cryptocurrencies on Binance US. So people like me that are in the US using Binance specifically can no longer trade these pairs. Many of them doing with Tether. There's also some Bitcoin pairs you can see right down here. And there are two pairs with Binance USD. That happened. And then shortly after, Binance US came out and said, hey, by the way, we're also suspending all the US dollar transactions starting on June 13th. So that's about 3 or 4 days from now, depending on when you watch this video. If you have money in Binance US, highly recommend taking it out. Don't put any new money in there because guess what's happening? The banks in the US are not allowing Binance to interact with them anymore. In other words, you can't really put on your USD or take off your USD from the Binance US account while all of this lawsuit action's going on. So Binance has come out and said, hey, you can still trade crypto. You can see right down here. You can still trade crypto. You can still stake. You can still deposit in crypto, but USD is not going to work anymore because the banks are pretty much going by what the government says in the US and not cooperating with Binance on their platform. So if you did get stuck for some reason, later on, what you could do is transfer or convert any of your cryptocurrency in Binance US or US dollars in Binance US to USDC, for example, or to Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever you want, then transfer your crypto or USDC or stablecoin out to another wallet like a MetaMask account or a Ledger or some safer wallet that's not an exchange, and then you can go put it on a different exchange or go through a DeFi platform like Uniswap and take out your money that way. Fun fact, it gets worse. Robinhood also is removing 3 of the pairs they have because guess what? No one wants to deal with the SEC. No one. Absolutely no one, especially in the US companies. Robinhood right here is removing support for 3 of their cryptocurrencies, Solana, Polygon, and Cardano, 3 of the ones that were named in the Coinbase and the Binance lawsuits as being securities. This makes sense. Robinhood doesn't have a lot of cryptocurrency, and for those of you who are seasoned traders or have been here before, you're probably not using Robinhood anyway. I'm certainly not. I never have, and I probably never will in terms of trading cryptocurrency. But if you do have any cryptocurrency on Robinhood, or if you're someone who's newer to the scene and have traded on Robinhood with these cryptocurrencies, unfortunately, they're gonna remove support for them indefinitely until we figure out what happens with this lawsuit. So that's also in the news, which doesn't bode well for any of these coins specifically because the less availability there is to trade them, the price is probably gonna go down. If there's no demand and there's no ways to get them and it's harder to get them, more people are not gonna be interested in going to figure that out. You can see here that Cardano is number 7, Solana is number 9, and Matic or Polygon is number 10 overall in cryptocurrency. But you can also see that over the 7-day percentage change, these 3 are some of the worst amongst the top 20. You can see all these other coins right now, XRP we'll talk about later in the video, but Cardano's down 23% in the last 7 days, Solana's down 20%, and Polygon's also down about 21%, as compared to a bunch of these other ones that are really just not down nearly as much, 3%, 4%, 15%, 3%, not anywhere near as bad as these coins are, and it makes sense because these are some of the biggest coins that have now been removed from Robinhood, from Binance, from Coinbase potentially, and they've all been named as securities in this SEC lawsuit. And at this point, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this is bad. But guess what, guys? It gets even worse. And I guarantee this is not going to be the end of this conversation either. Crypto.com. Institutional investors in the US are no longer going to be able to trade with Crypto.com starting on June 21st. You can see right down here. There's a very good chance that they also do what these other platforms are doing, and they're going to limit the ability to trade those SEC securities on their platform for all investors. I don't doubt that we'll see that in the next couple days, but for now, it's just institutional investors. So if you have money on Crypto.com at the moment, you're okay, but I'm pretty sure that will change at some point in the next week. Now, before we go any further, I gotta say, this is all on the basis of the SEC calling all of these things securities and suing these major exchanges. But there's no guarantee that these are actually valid lawsuits. There's no guarantee that Gary or the SEC are correct in any way. And I'm gonna be honest with you, there's a lot of contradictory stuff coming out here, because if we pop over here, the head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, was actually offering to be an advisor for Binance back in 2019, or so the Binance lawyers are claiming. CZ, the leader of Binance, makes a very good point that the SEC actually didn't sue FTX, which is one of the 3 major crypto exchanges that actually already went under and had all kinds of funny business going on behind the scenes. Yet they did sue Coinbase and Binance, who are both still standing, and as far as we know, been around for the longest and the most trustworthy crypto exchanges available. And of course, there are articles about that as well. Gensler claims that there were parallels between Binance and FTX, yet FTX is underwater and had all kinds of problems, and they weren't sued while Binance was. And all I gotta say about that is this man right here, Mr. Gary, is Mr. Gary the Clown. These things just don't add up. Not only was Gary at MIT promoting cryptocurrency back when he worked there, now they're saying he wants to be an advisor in 2019 for Binance. It just all doesn't make sense. But what does add up is the fact that all of these trades, all of the trading volume we see on a day-to-day basis is now moving over to DeFi platforms like Uniswap and PancakeSwap, pretty much decentralized exchanges that don't have any worries, or at least at the moment don't have any worries about getting sued by the SEC, like Coinbase, Binance, and maybe a bunch of others soon to come. We can see as DEX volume surged, Binance actually had over $778 million worth of crypto exiting the exchange, which means lots of people are hearing about the news and they are moving their stuff, because let's be honest, we know how this goes sometimes and we don't want to be caught with our pants down. So where are we at now? How many of these cryptocurrencies are actually considered securities based on all these different lawsuits and things happening quite fast? Well, there's 67 cryptocurrencies now seen as securities according to the SEC. We can see that the SEC introduced 10 cryptocurrencies into the securities classification against Binance. They named 13 different cryptocurrencies in the Coinbase suit, and the total amount, like I just said, is 67. You can see almost all of them here. There are even some deemed mirror protocol, so mirrored Amazon, mirrored Apple, which makes more sense, to be honest, because those are actually securities. But these other cryptocurrencies here, there are 54 tokens. Obviously, XRP is one of them. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, so don't go anywhere. You can see them all here, and there's quite a few big names in here. You can see Decentraland, Cardano, Solana, Binance, Sandbox, Voyager, Polygon, Filecoin, Luna, and Terra are even in there, which don't even get me started on those. The SEC is going after everything. But one thing to note, no mention of Bitcoin or Ethereum. So once again, the safest assets have not been named in the crypto securities lawsuits. Another little story that came out that I think actually doesn't have a lot of relevance to this, but you just never know, and it's worth mentioning because I like to play both sides of every story and not be too bullish or too bearish. Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, actually sold a bunch of stock the day before the news broke about the lawsuit from the SEC. He actually dumped almost 30,000 shares of Coinbase stock on June 5th, just the day before the SEC lawsuit was public, and the shares of Coinbase tanked 20%. Mr. Whalewire here is saying that should be illegal, and I agree that sometimes these things are uncanny in terms of the timing. Apparently, he did have a preset plan to sell stock at certain periods over time, and this just so happened on the day before the actual lawsuit was announced, which is unfortunate timing, definitely looks fishy, so keep an eye on this. I don't think it was done intentionally. I actually like Brian Armstrong. I believe him and I trust him quite a bit, but you never know, and you always have to be aware of these kind of things. Now let's talk about the Ripple lawsuit, which is apparently supposed to end in a couple weeks. One of the lawyers that's following the case thinks there's a less than 3% chance that the SEC actually has a victory. Now, that doesn't mean that Ripple's going to have an outright victory. You can see right here, there's a 25% chance that Ripple will see an outright win in the lawsuit. But the good news is that there is a low chance that the SEC wins at this point, which is why a lot of people actually think that Gary's going after other exchanges and other cryptocurrencies to try to make up for the fact that they're going to lose this lawsuit. Now, for those of you who have a heavy XRP bag, you're going to love this. This guy, the lawyer that talks about the percentage chance here, that's been following this for a while, believes that between a $2 and $10 price point is reasonable if Ripple wins the case. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, there is no way this thing's hitting $10. That would mean it'd have to do a 20x from where it is right now at about 50 cents. That's just unrealistic from a $25 billion market cap to do a 20x in this deep of a bear market. But I do firmly believe a dollar XRP, or maybe even $1.50, a 2 to 3x is possible. We do have to keep in mind though, the last time XRP was at $1 is all the way back over here, early 2022. That's a year and a half ago. So it's been quite some time since XRP's seen those kind of numbers. We'll see what happens with this lawsuit. And if you have a bag, I'm rooting for you. But as I was saying, you shouldn't just take my word for it here. If Ripple wins this argument, the SEC is screwed versus Coinbase and Binance, according to the Bitcoinist article that just came out today. We can see that if the Judge Reardon, would follow the same reasoning as she analyzes whether the 13 tokens cited in the Coinbase complaint are securities. Meaning that if the SEC doesn't win the case against Ripple, proving that it is a security like they claim, then it's likely that these other cryptocurrencies named as securities will be deemed also not securities by the same judge or by precedent. One other person I wanted to point out here is Mark Cuban, who doesn't own any Coinbase stock, but is strongly defending Coinbase against the SEC. There's been other people coming out saying that this is absolute BS and it's unreal that the SEC is going after all these companies without actually giving them the chance to comply in the first place. Brian Armstrong also tweeted about it, saying that he tried to comply. The company tried several months in a row to go into the SEC and comply and get some kind of regulation on what they can and can't be doing, but that was never a possibility. So you can see that it's not just the people in crypto that are so seriously defending how messed up this system is, but other billionaires like Mark Cuban, who's got, again, no skin in the game here, does believe that this is outrageous. All these lawsuits have actually united the crypto community against the common foe in Gary Gensler and the SEC. But someone who's not even worrying about that too much and buying even more shares of Coinbase is Cathie Wood from ARK Investment. You can see here that she bought another $21.6 million worth of Coinbase shares as soon as the news broke about the lawsuit. So clearly, even though all these bad news catalysts are coming out, Cathie firmly believes in Coinbase and the future of the company. You can see here, if we go over to the ARK Invest holdings, is actually almost 6% of their total holdings in this fund, which equates to a market value of about $450 million. I know every time I see Coinbase stock fall, I also see a headline about Cathie Wood and ARK continuing to invest more money in it. So if you're someone who believes in Cathie Wood and her expertise in investing, this should help you feel a little bit better about it. And the last thing I want to point out to you guys is that no matter what the news catalysts are, no matter how deep in a bear market we are, you have to remember that the fundamentals and the reasons we believe in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency just haven't changed. In fact, I'm not the only one that feels this way either. You can see right here, this chart is the number of Bitcoin addresses with a non-zero balance, meaning that if they have any amount of Bitcoin in their wallet, this is the chart for that. The black is the price of Bitcoin over the last 5 years, from July 2018 all the way up to January of this year. And the orange line is the number of wallets that have any amount of Bitcoin in them, meaning that they are probably at least somewhat active and not just a random account that someone made that they abandoned with 0 Bitcoin in it. This number, even though the price of Bitcoin has fluctuated significantly in the last 5 years, the amount of addresses continues to go up, and right now is continuing to go up at an even faster pace. So there's more adoption for Bitcoin now than in the last 2 years even, but the price may not reflect that. And guess what? If you don't believe me, believe the whales. Look at the whales accounts right now. This is the number of Bitcoin addresses, so a number of wallets that have more than 10,000 Bitcoin, which is an absurd amount of money. It's multi-millions, hundreds of millions, probably even billions. I haven't even done the math. These are mega whales. The orange line shows how many of these whales there are. And you can see there's only 120 at this point to start. Again, the black line is the price of Bitcoin. You can see that the biggest whales know exactly what's going on at all times over the macro view. You can see that it was pretty stagnant for a while. And then as soon as the bull market hit, a bunch of whales sold off. They sold off at least a part of their Bitcoin, meaning that they'd have less than 10,000 in their wallet. And you can see that that's almost identical with the tops of Bitcoin in the last bull run. But now all of a sudden, as we're deeper in this bear market, we've declined to about 16, 15,000 at one point, and even come back up to 30,000 almost at one point here. More Bitcoin being accumulated by these mega whales. So these guys clearly know how to play the game. Maybe they have some extra information that we just don't have, but it's good to look at this and say, hey, if these guys know what the heck's going on and they're accumulating right now, that's gotta mean good things for all of us minnows and smaller investors that still believe in this, but might be a little bit scared in this bear market, as is normal for newer investors. And even me, this is my first true deep bear market for a full 4-year cycle. And this definitely helps make me feel better that the big guys know what's going on, they're repeating history like they have, and we're in a good place.